The days after Arty's shadow chase lingered in my mind like an unfinished melody. My wife's words about happiness rooted in the present played over and over, and I found myself replaying moments with Arty, that little bundle of energy who seemed to live entirely in the now. It was a few weeks later, when another sunny morning dawned, the house alive with the sounds of domestic bustle. Arty was growing fast. His toddling had turned into confident little steps, and his curiosity about the world seemed endless. As I sipped my coffee and read the morning paper, I watched him explore the garden from the window, picking up flowers and marveling at the sunlight dancing on dewdrops. His joy was pure and uninhibited, untainted by the weight of expectations or the chase of illusions. "Do you think he'll always be this happy?" I asked my wife as she sat across from me, pouring tea. She looked up, her eyes warm with affection. "Not unless we teach him how. Happiness isn't something he'll just stumble upon. It's something we'll need to nurture in him, just as we nurture his mind and body." Her words stayed with me as I left for the office that day. The routine unfolded as expected. Meetings, calls, and the endless shuffle of papers. But amidst the hum of business, a growing unease gnawed at me. I had been successful by most standards, but something vital felt out of reach. Was I living the very life my wife had warned about? One consumed by shadows? The day took an unexpected turn when Edward knocked on my office door with a letter in hand. "It's from Mr. B, sir," he said, handing me the envelope. My heart sank at the mention of the man who had left our business in such a precarious position. I opened it cautiously, expecting the worst. Instead, the letter revealed an apology. Mr. B admitted to being overwhelmed by financial troubles, but assured me that he intended to pay back every cent. Enclosed was a partial payment, along with an invitation to meet him personally to discuss a resolution. "Well, I muttered, staring at the neat script. My earlier judgment had been harsh, assuming the worst without allowing for the possibility of redemption. "Shall I arrange a meeting?" Edward asked. "Yes," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Let's give him a chance to set things right." That evening, as I walked home, the weight of the day lifted slightly. The encounter with Mr. B had reminded me of something essential. Life's complexities often require more grace than judgment. Shadows, after all, weren't always what they seemed. Sometimes they were merely the absence of understanding. At home, Arty was waiting for me, his laughter filling the air as he played with a simple wooden toy. His innocence was a balm to my weary spirit. As I scooped him up, his tiny hands reached for my face, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Papa," he exclaimed, pointing at the fading sunlight that cast long shadows across the room. "Look, shadow." I laughed, holding him close. "Yes, Arty, that's your shadow. It'll follow you everywhere you go." "Why?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. "Because it's part of you," I said. "But remember, shadows aren't what's real. They're just reminders of the light." That night, after Arty was tucked in bed, my wife and I sat together by the fire, her knitting needles clicking softly as the flames danced in the hearth. "You seemed lighter tonight," she said, glancing at me. "Has something changed?" I nodded slowly. "I think I'm beginning to understand what you meant. About shadows, about happiness. It's not easy, though. Breaking old habits of thought." "No, it's not," she agreed. "But each day is a new chance. Even shadows can teach us something if we're willing to see them differently." Her words resonated deeply. As the weeks passed, I made a conscious effort to live more in the present, to find joy in the small, unremarkable moments that made up each day. I spent more time with Arty, letting his boundless curiosity remind me of life's simple wonders. And while the business world remained a constant challenge, I approached it with a newfound balance, no longer letting ambition blind me to what truly mattered. One evening, as the family gathered in the garden to watch the fireflies dance in the twilight, Arty toddled over to me, his little hand slipping into mine. "Papa," he said, his voice soft and serious. No more shadows? I smiled down at him, lifting him into my arms. No more chasing shadows, my boy. Just the light. As I held him close, surrounded by the love of my family, I realized that the shadows had finally lost their grip on me. Happiness wasn't something to be chased. It was something to be embraced right here in this moment. And for the first time, I felt truly free.